right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome inside the 360 Sports Show live here on Sunday, August 16th. Welcome to the show. If you'd like to contact us, you can email the show, the360sportshow at gmail.com. You can also hit us up through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. And all that information, if you're watching us live, is right there on the screen. So you can send us a message through email or through our social media platforms if you'd like to reach us. I am Andrew Pizzelli, and I'd like to bring into the show now Christian Lauber. Christian, how are you doing here on this time a rainy, overcast, and blustery Sunday morning? Atypical for the Sundays we've been having for the live show here of late. But how are you doing? And let's check in. How many days left in 2020 now?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is probably the first Sunday in a while I remember having rain or anything, but um, you know, another day, and we have 138 days, so we're really getting down there now.
Almost to that. That once we hit that 100 under the 100-day mark, that's when it's really going to start to. That's when it's going to start to really feel real. Like, all right, now we're making real progress. Um, So let's just jump right in. We have we have a lot to get to here today. So like I said, thank you for finding us live here on the show on our various platforms. We're live every Sunday at 11 a.m. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitch, YouTube, Periscope. You can find us on all of those platforms. And if you can't catch us live, you can always catch the podcast edition of the show on SoundCloud. And you can, subscribe to that through the litany of podcasting apps that are out there and that are available to you. So you can always find us on those and never miss an episode. So let's just dive right in, Christian, and let's just start quick with the things that are easy and aren't going to take up a lot of time. And we'll start with Major League Baseball. And we won't have to spend a lot of time on this. The Red Sox are bad. They are terrible. They're awful. We've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. No need to watch. And if you're a fan of another team, tune in because your team is going to put up probably historic offensive numbers. Their pitching is terrible. Their best pitcher, Nathan Eovaldi, got obliterated last night. He's like the 700th ranked pitcher in the league. They're just terrible from top to bottom, and it's not going to get any better, and they're going to be historically bad. Do you have anything else to add?
They have. I don't think they've been the worst team in baseball since like the 1900s. So this is gonna be very historic year. So if you're into history, that's a good reason to watch because they suck.
Yeah, they're lucky that it's only going to be a 60-game season because if it was 162 games, they would be the worst team maybe ever in baseball. I mean, when your best pitching outings are from field players who have to come in and pitch because you're getting blown out by like 18 runs, not good. Not good at all.
Meanwhile, you look on the other coast and you see Mookie Betts hitting 3 home runs, and yeah, it's a good time in Red Sox land.
I don't even think, I don't think Mookie Betts on this team right now would make them that much better. Maybe you have enough offense to carry you to like be one of those fringe playoff teams with the expansion, but that's not going to fix the pitching. You'll get maybe a little more run support, but the runs they're giving up is just horrific, awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's why. I mean I feel like with the NBA playoffs about to start, NHL Stanley Cup playoffs underway. There's really no need to spend too much time on them, so that's why we do a quick hit, let you know they suck, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, if anything changes, we'll let you know. In terms of the rest of the MLB, as we expected, the Yankees 14-6, they're rolling. They're on top of the AL East. The Twins and Indians top of the Central. The Athletics are on top of the AL West, and then out in the National League. Funny little quirk here, because of the games off, the Marlins are leading the NL East, even though they've played significantly less games. I don't know what they're going to do at the end of the season. Are they going to have like a minimum games played requirement for some of these teams? Like the Cardinals are second in the NL Central. They're 4-3.
I know, and
What are you going to do?
So the Cardinals, right? They're going to play 11 7-inning doubleheaders. 11 of them.
Yeah.
That is the deal right now.
Dodgers, as you mentioned before, on top of the NL West. Kind of to that note, so a Cincinnati Reds player this week has tested positive. Their next 2 games against the Pirates have been postponed. We don't know who it is. This is the league's official statement. Following a positive test for COVID-19 by a Cincinnati Reds player, tonight's scheduled games, as well as tomorrow's afternoon contest between the Reds and Pirates at Great American Ballpark, have been postponed to allow additional testing and to complete the contact tracing process. Major League Baseball will continue to provide updates as they become available. So who knows how they're going to take the days off to test everybody and try and trace this thing. Who knows by the end of it? This is how it started in with the Marlins, and then also with the Cardinals. It's like, oh well, one player, and then one became 18. The Cardinals, who just got back to playing, like you said, they will play 53 games in 45 days. With, like you said, 11 double headers. Oh my God, that's insane! Like that.
Fun with that.
We talked before. We've spoken on the program with Dr. Mark Murphy a couple of weeks ago, right as things were starting to pick up, about how the return to play and acclimating yourself and everything, and how you could see an increase of certain types of injuries, of muscle pulls, of repetitive motion injuries for guys who aren't in the swing of things and trying to ramp up too quickly. You play 53 games in 45 days, for baseball players, especially pitchers, like that could be a dangerous situation for those guys as far as injury goes. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But oh my God, baseball should just cut their losses. Some of these teams, like say if the Cardinals have somebody test positive again, it's like you've only played 7 games and we're almost a month into this now. Like, you know what? Go home. Go home. We don't need you. Take it off. Goodbye.
Yeah, 53 games in 44 days. That's a lot of games, and also, I guess the Cardinals have a chance, but it just seems like if a team goes that, far backwards, I feel like you just cut your losses at that point. But supposedly, I think the season just has to go till September 1st for the Red Sox to get a reset on the luxury tax. So that's a good thing. So hopefully they can get through all these games. But I think if you're talking about teams that are just, you have multiple outbreaks and you have to stop games for a long period of time, at what point do you say this team's just done?
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. It seems baseball is just they're just going to fight their way through it. They're just all ahead full, and they're trying to, they're just trying to make it happen, Captain. So that's your quick Major League Baseball update. So in short, Red Sox suck. There's still coronavirus cases, and we've given you who's leading the divisions. No surprises there. Really no other big news. The biggest thing in the sports world right now, I'd say, is probably the NBA. And so the playoffs will start tomorrow. And Christian, I want to go through the whole bracket, and we can quickly kind of give who our takes on each matchup. But I just want to say, and I know we've said this before, the NBA is doing it right. They nailed this thing. They nailed the bubble. And what's great is, aside from like the Wizards, who showed up and basically didn't do anything. They finished in a worse seeding position than they came in. They dropped behind 2 teams that didn't even come to the bubble. Every fantastic, a rousing success. Against everything. They're able to put the fans in the stands, with the digital board, so people can kind of be there as virtual fans. The court setup, the in-game stuff, the broadcasts have been great. And you know what? The play on the court is what makes it. And there's still so many compelling storylines, but none, what makes sports great is the competition. And there's situations like, say, go back to 2007. Patriots are playing the Giants in Week 17. Patriots are trying to go undefeated. They're already locked up the number 1 seed. The Giants have nothing to play for. They're already locked into their playoff position. And, they really could have just rested everybody to get ready for a wild card game. But both teams, it's like, this is a game. They went out, they played, they competed, and that was a classic, epic game. Look at a team like the Phoenix Suns. Could have easily come in and said, you know what, we're way out of it. We'd have to go 8-0 to have a shot at even making, the play-in game. Whatever. It's the bubble. We're here. We're going to make some money, and then we're going to go home. They balled out. And because they balled out, it made other teams have to, really try. You had the Nets, who had nothing to play for. Everybody was just it was such a compelling moment, and that moment in the NBA history, It was like the Nets had nothing to play for, this young, injured team, and they played their hearts out to try and end the Blazers season and send them home. It was just competition at its best. So of all those crazy scenarios we talked about last week, who's going to make it in, it ends up being the Blazers and the Grizzlies. Blazers win yesterday, so they're the 8th seed. But that whole, like, last week, all the scenarios and it leading up to those last couple of games was just fantastic. Awesome drama, and that's why we like sports.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I was rooting for the Suns to get in because I think it's just more compelling. I mean, I think the Trailblazers will just lose in the first round anyway, but other than Lillard, I guess, and Carmelo Anthony, but really, I would have liked to see the Suns get in because of how they were on fire. So I would have liked to see. I think it would have been a more compelling product. But at the end of the day, when you have teams like at the tail end of this playoff, like the play-in last night was also good. And I don't know. I just like the product. I wonder if they explore something like it going forward, just because it was so good down to the wire. And you have a team like the Suns that obviously the bubble was a way different scenario than the future might hold, but a team like that just gets extremely hot once they enter the bubble and almost can get in. Unfortunately, they had to bank on the Nets, but there's just been throughout the whole thing since the NBA's gotten down there. The setting is great. The environment seems pretty good, and the competition is these guys are playing. It's not like it's this bubble, the championship doesn't matter. No, these guys are down there to win, and they're playing.
Yeah, I agree. I would have really liked to have seen the Suns get in just because of the effort that they put in towards trying to make it in. And I wanted what ended up happening. What hurt was that the Bucks rested play. Giannis had to go headbutt somebody. He's slapping guys in the balls one week. Now he's headbutting people. So he gets knocked for a game, and then the Bucks just decide to kind of just take that last game off. So the Grizzlies win versus the Bucks, securing a playoff spot in that playoff game, which made the Suns had to rely on the Nets, who almost beat the Blazers. But the Bucks resting guys robbed us of what could have been Lillard versus D Book, and that would have been an awesome little play-in scenario to watch unfold. Those two guys going at it.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think the Grizzlies, they came close, but at the end of the day, if that game was Blazers Suns, I think I would have been more inclined to watch through and through as opposed to like piece by piece. But either way, the product has been very, very good. So that's the most important thing. And the guys down there that are in the bubble now and the playoffs are about to ramp up, they care obviously. And I don't think anybody, for me, it was if these sports come back, it's going to be kind of like an asterisk year. But I don't know about that anymore. I think these guys are playing hard, and the integrity of the league is still there. You're going to have to, win these 7-game series against the toughest opponents in the NBA. So that asterisk is kind of it's going by the wayside for me a little bit. I think these teams want to win. I think they're making it more intriguing that way. They could have easily went down there and not cared as much. It's almost as if they care more. This is a tough year, and I think it makes it all the more important to go out and win.
I think there's still I've kind of said. I think there's a positive asterisk. There will be an asterisk that says COVID-19. This was the bubble year. We made it happen. We made it work. It's a positive thing. There's so far, knock on wood, they haven't had cases. Guys haven't had to leave. It's not like, so-and-so won the championship, but that's because, like, this guy got hurt, this guy got sick, this team decided just to fold up and go home. And it's like, yay, the Nuggets won the championship. Like, none of that so far is playing out. And, in fact, I think it's going to be harder than ever this year to win a championship because no home court. So some of these series, these first-round series, which maybe it's like, the better team just blows out the 1 seed blows out the 8 seed, 2 games at home. They go on the road. The 8 seed maybe wins game 3. They lose game 4. They have to go travel all the way back to some other, to the other team, to the best team, and they lose Game 5. And that's usually how the first round goes for a lot of these series. They're 4 or 5 games at most. Now, I think you're going to see a lot of these series, these first-round matchups, go longer than we're probably used to seeing. I think a lot of them could go 6 or 7 games, when under normal circumstances, it's like, hey, the Bucks should blow out the Magic. That's a 4-game series. There's no way. The Magic won't even take a game. Maybe they take a game or 2. What do you think, Christian? Do you think that that's gonna? That's my gut feeling right now, is that because of the parity we've seen, a lot of these playoff series could go longer than expected, or will, now that it's the playoffs and the best teams are going to be really dialed in, it's not going to matter no matter where they're playing?
For me, I think for the most part, yes, I'm on par with that. I think a lot of teams could take a couple games that normally maybe they wouldn't in a normal year, where they have to go on the road to Toronto, tough place to play, to Philly, another tough place to play, places like that. But the Magic, I think that's a 4-game series. I think the West is definitely I think that's the side of the coin where you say, I think teams can take games off here of any team in that Western Conference. There's no home court. Every team out there is competitive. And I think that's the more compelling side in terms of these series might go longer. I think in the East, the 1-8, I don't think that'll matter much. But everything else in the East, I think those teams are remotely close, like Toronto and Brooklyn. Brooklyn just plays hard, so they might take a couple games. But the West is really where I'm looking at to say, I think whatever the seeding might be, I think Dallas could take a game off the Clippers. I think, teams like that. So it's going to be interesting. And even Portland might take a game off the Lakers with the way they're playing. So I think the Western Conference is more compelling in that way. The East, I think there's a lot of, tight series there in general. And then the games where you have like Toronto, Brooklyn, and Magic, Milwaukee, I think those could go 5 maybe, but probably 4 or 5 at most.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of these matchups. So the Blazers, they have to win on the last night of the quote unquote regular season, the restart. They beat the Nets. They get a defensive stop at the end. I wanted Chris LeVert to maybe go to the rim, but he opted for a fadeaway. So they end up having to play the Grizzlies, who they dispatch yesterday. C.J. McCollum and Lillard both have big days. Carmelo hit some clutch shots as well for them to help seal that. So they play the Lakers. Now, the Lakers might be the best team in the NBA, but Damian Lillard is on another level right now. The dude is pulling up from half court and just shooting in rhythm. The Nets started picking him up at half court with a double team, and face guarding him and staying. They were almost doing the James Harden thing, where we're going to stand in front and behind you. We're just going to make you not be the one to shoot at all. So the Lakers, I think, are the more talented team, and they have maybe the two best players in the series, depending on if Anthony Davis's head is screwed on right. But who's going to guard Damian Lillard? Who's gonna guard Damian Lillard on the Lakers, Christian?
Well, Avery Bradley's not there, so that's out the window. Honestly, it's going to be a tough matchup, I think, for the Lakers. I think, I don't know, do you do something where you put LeBron on him, maybe? Something like that? But Avery Bradley is that guy, and he's not going to be down there. So I think you have to go with the next man up. I don't know if I would just maybe throw LeBron on him and see what happens. If there's another matchup they take advantage of because of it, then great. But if Lillard doesn't go off for 64, maybe you take the win on that. I don't know. That's going to be a tough thing, because I don't think when Lillard's just pulling up from the logo, I don't think you can do much other than maybe a double team or something like that where you pressure him above the 3-point line. But I would say maybe your best option is just say, LeBron, defend him, and then if we need to switch, we'll switch.
So in that situation, because really, like you said, no Avery Bradley, that really hurts. Even not having Rondo. Rondo's, he's past his prime. He's not like the elite type of defending point guard that he used to be. But he's savvy. He's a veteran guy. He could, at least if you had that tandem, Rondo and Bradley as perimeter defenders, that's at least a solid defensive backcourt that you could implement at, and guys who could switch and you could throw at Lillard. The problem is going to be you put LeBron on Lillard. Now who's guarding McCollum? And McCollum showed you last night, and he's shown you the last couple of years, he can be that dude as well. So if that tandem is going, that's just as deadly as Westbrook and Harden. And not to mention that they have Carmelo Anthony who can hit threes, and they actually have a post presence with Nurkic. So I think it's going to be really, if you put LeBron out there, now LeBron can't really do what he likes to do, which is sag off a guy and kind of roam around and kind of cover up for a lot of things, defensively. Would you rather have LeBron chasing Lillard the whole game and maybe that gasses him offensively? Or do you trust Contavious Caldwell-Pope to try and pick up Damian Lillard?
Yeah, it's probably going to just be one of those things where you have to explore your options. So if you try Caldwell-Pope and it doesn't work, maybe you swap. But the biggest thing is don't go below any screen because you're going to get torched if you do. So I think maybe if you just the Lakers' advantage is they have a ton of size. LeBron, Davis, Kuzma, all these guys have size, even McGee. So you just kind of build out from inside the paint, I guess, and, make him shoot the three, and hopefully he has an off day. I don't think there's any – if those two are going, there's really no key to stopping them. I think it's just you got to stop the other secondary scoring and kind of out-battle them with your best players.
All right. We do want to break down the Sixers-Celtics series, so we'll leave that to the end of our predictions. We'll get into that series and then give a prediction. But let's right now kind of do like a little lightning round. And just off the top here, give predictions for each of these first-round series. So your prediction right now, Lakers, Trailblazers. Who are you taking?
Lakers.
And how many?
5 or 6 probably.
Is it 5 or is it 6? Pick.
6 at most.
6 at most. So we'll say Lakers in 6. I'm going Portland in 7. I said it weeks ago. I'm sticking to it. The Blazers are going to beat the Lakers. Book it. Book it. And
I'll take it away. Here we go.
And when I'm wrong, I'll come on here and admit that I was wrong. But right now, I don't see anybody. It's all about matchups. The Blazers could beat the Lakers and then easily just get annihilated by somebody else. But I don't see right now, until I see with my own 2 eyes, how somebody's going to defend Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum at the same time. I'm putting some spec on that name. Damian Lillard wants the respect. I'm giving him the respect right now. Portland in 7.
You think Lillard and McCollum are going to outplay LeBron, Davis, Kuzma, Danny Green, Anthony Davis, like that
Danny Green has not been the guy who's the like just true marksman have not been. Danny Green has not been good in the bubble, so I'm not going to like
where you make your money though.
True.
Playoff time.
True. But it could be totally easy for like if Beta AD shows up and he just kind of like doesn't really want to assert himself, and Nurkic is able to, if Davis just wants to hang out on the perimeter and he doesn't want to go body Nurkic, and then on the other end Nurkic wants to do what he's been doing, which is battling in the post and giving them a presence at the rim and a way to settle their offense. A lot of these teams, like you look at the Rockets, who just shoot all these threes and have all these guys that can shoot on the perimeter, but they can never just kind of run normal plays and like get a big in pick and roll action and do stuff. The Blazers have 2 guys that are basically hitting from all over the floor with McCollum and Lillard, and they still have a legitimate big man in Nurkic who can, they're not undersized defensively the way the Rockets are. So the Lakers, they have size, but it's not like it's this crazy mismatch every time up and down the floor. So I can totally see Beta AD showing up, LeBron having to do everything, and other guys just not being able to make shots. And McCollum and Lillard each average like 30, or Lillard averages 40. He's averaging like 40 or like 53 points his last 3 games, something stupid. So it could totally happen. So Portland at 7.
All right, we're starting early with the Kashi pick. Look, I think in the bubble environment, I really don't. I don't think anybody's spot is necessarily locked in. It's not like the regular season where you have home court and everything like that, where you're saying, okay, Lakers Clippers, they're probably going to go down to the wire. Both those teams easily, no shot. Anybody else beats them in 7 games on their home floor. Now I give anybody at least a 1% chance. So if it happened, I wouldn't be
A
as surprised
1%
as I
chance.
would
You have
be,
to give a 1% chance in any series under normal circumstances. Give it more. Come on, Christian. 10% chance.
5%.
All right. Move on. Let's move on, because we'll be able to argue this one for quite a while, and we'll have games under. Once Portland takes game 1 and game 2, we'll be able to talk next week. Houston and OKC. I am taking Houston in 5 games just because I don't think OKC has enough. I know they've played well, and Chris Paul has really done a lot with with that team, and Steven Adams. There is that avenue there where maybe they just overpower them from a size standpoint. But I've been saying the Rockets are going to lose games because of the mismatch, and they're so undersized, and they're not. And Harden and Westbrook are on fire, in the bubble too. So that series, just because I don't think OKC has the offense, I'm picking Houston in 5 in that one.
Yeah, I'd say Houston in 6. I don't know. I like what OKC has done. I just don't think they have enough to compete with all the free throws that the Rockets are going to shoot. So it's going to be like, Harden's going to score 50 and score 40 free throws. So I think the way the playoffs are going to work is the Rockets just have too much firepower, and OKC is not going to be able to handle that. I like what they've done. I mean, I think Gilgeous-Alexander is a real deal. I think he's going to be a pretty good player here in a couple of years, maybe. But right now, yeah, it's the Rockets in 6.
Okay. Next matchup is the Denver Nuggets versus the Utah Jazz, the 3-6 matchup. Who are you taking in that one?
This is a tough one, actually. This is more tough than it. I would say I'm going to take Utah. Utah in 7.
Okay, in 7. I'm going Denver in 6. I like the Jazz. They play hard. They have talent. They're a very good defensive team. But Denver has added those elements. They're getting minutes and contributions from Bol, which is huge for them. They're also getting contributions now from Porter Jr. And Jokic and Jamal Murray. Gary Harris is going to be healthy for these playoff games, along with Will Barton. I just think Denver is going to have too much to throw. They've got tons of size. They also have so much skill. They're kind of a wild card team because it's just like they're young and they haven't been there enough. So, nobody knows what to make out of them. If they can make a run in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a close series. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7, but just because of the talent level, I'm going to go Denver. What I think is an offensive talent disparity, I'm going to go Denver in 6. I don't think COVID King himself, Rudy Gobert, can lead the Jazz in a playoff series. I don't think it's going to happen. Basketball gods will deny the Jazz.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And then the last series in the West, the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. Who are you taking in that one, Christian?
I'd say Clippers in 5.
Clippers
I think
in
the Clippers are
5.
It's Kawhi time now, so this is where you make your money in the playoffs. And I just think I don't think the Mavericks are quite there yet. They've struggled a bit in the bubble. Granted, a lot of teams have, even the Clippers. So I don't know how much credence you can put on that, but I just think now the money's on the table. George, Kawhi, these guys. This is where you push forward here. So I just think the Clippers are much better on paper, on the floor, and I just think I don't think Dallas is quite there yet for this matchup yet.
For Dallas to win, it would require Porzingis to like become aggressive and elevate himself and try and assert himself in a game. And he just hasn't shown me that yet in his career. He wants to shoot threes. He fades. He has like a foot on a guy, and he like fades away instead of just like elevating or going to the rim. So I think Dallas makes it tough on the Clippers just because I think Luka and the things he does on the court. I think he will help lead them. I've been saying for a while, the Clippers need like a galvanizing thing. Like that team, they have so much talent, and I think their talent actually fits really well together, but that hasn't translated to the court and the chemistry on the floor. And now with guys being out and Lou Williams having to sit out and then being back, and then it just they're a team that kind of just seemed like they had enough talent to kind of sleepwalk their way through. You know, I think a good playoff scare where they have to really fight will bring them together because I think they might be the best team with if they're all to if that team is working together the way Doc Rivers wants it to play together. But I think it takes a while. I think the Clippers, they win this series, but it takes 7 games because I think Luka is that good to help the Mavericks. And I think they're a well-coached team, too, the Mavericks. So I think that's going to be a really good matchup. But the Clippers find a way, 7 games.
Yeah, I just hope. I've said this before. I just hope Marcus Morris doesn't start jacking up triples when the game's on the line and lose you one. I like the player because he's good on the defensive end, and he can get hot. He's a streaky player, but he's one that I worry about for the Clippers taking too many shots. So we'll have to see, but I just don't think Dallas is ready for that.
So that's it for the Western Conference. Now over to the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Milwaukee and Orlando, first round. I am going Bucks in 5. Orlando, not enough gas in the tank to be able to handle the Greek Freak.
Yeah, I would agree. But I'm going to say Magic in 4. Clean sweep. You ready for it?
Magic and wait, hold on. I'm like typing out Milwaukee, expecting you're saying Magic in 4.
No, I'm kidding. Bucks in 4.
Okay. Did I just hear that right? I literally just thought the universe was falling apart. Bucks in 4.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Bucks in 4. The Magic are just not that good. I think they just don't have enough.
I thought it was there was a big push, a late social media push on Thursday night to try and get the was it Thursday night or Friday night? Now my days are all screwed up. But to try and get the people were saying the Suns, there should have been a mechanism if a team went 8-0 and they couldn't make the playoff game in one conference, they should have had an opportunity if that slot was open in the other because the Wizards were so far out from the 8 seed, there didn't need to be a play-in game in the East, like there was in the West. So people were saying, seed the Suns into the Eastern Conference, let them play the Magic, which I thought that would have been an interesting, thing for Adam Silver to do, to say like, you know what, this team played so well they earned it, but by not doing that, it kind of maintains like the integrity of what they built, which was that we had a regular season continuance. And, hey, you guys played great, but we operated under basically the same rules as we would normally. And too bad. Should have won more games in January. So let's go back here to the bracket. So we both got the Bucks. Next series is the Pacers and the Heat. That's the 4-5 matchup in the East. Who are you taking in that one?
This is going to be a good series. I think Miami probably wins, and I'll say in 7 games. But Man, I think this is going to be the most intriguing series out of the Eastern Conference for the first round.
We are in complete lockstep here. Miami in 7. I think Miami is, you know, well, you don't know. Like, is T.J. Warren still going to be T.J. Warren now in the playoffs? But the Heat, you look at them. They're a well coached team. They've got that kind of never say die attitude. They're scrappy, but so too are the Pacers. And I think if you're just waiting what we expect out of the stars on each team, you give the edge to Miami. But the Pacers could, if T.J. Warren is going to play the same way he's been playing in the playoffs as he did in the bubble, they're going to be a tough out. So I think this is basically a coin, a toss of a coin. It's a pick 'em, and I'm just going to go with Miami just because I think they have the more established star players. I give a slight edge. But yeah, I agree with you. This is going to be a very intriguing series.
Now watch, Miami's just going to blow them out every game. It's going to be 4 games, but I think these two match up the best. Ultimately, I don't think T.J. Warren is going to be able to do as much as he did because Jimmy Butler is very good on the defensive side. So I think Miami takes it, but that will be a good series.
Yep. We'll skip over the Celtics series for a moment because we want to do a bit of an in-depth on that one. Toronto and the Nets, the reigning champions versus the Brooklyn Nets. The Kyrie and KD less, and Spencer Dinwiddie less, and Jamal Crawford less. Brooklyn Nets in the first round. I'm going to take Toronto in 5. I like the Nets. They're young. They're scrappy. They've shown you a little something. I think they're probably like competitive in games 1 and 2. Maybe they win like an elimination game 4, but they don't have enough. They're not ready. Toronto is very good defensively and organized, and they're the champs. And they've got that like heart of a champion thing going for them. I don't see the Nets being able to take with how depleted they are. Maybe they find a way. They'll compete, and maybe they steal a game. But Toronto in 5.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. Toronto 5. There's no way Brooklyn. Look, I think they're a good young team, but without Kyrie, KD, they play hard, so they might get the one of those games. But ultimately, Toronto should and probably will, win 3 out of the first 4, and then eventually just get to 5 there. So I think Toronto wins that with relative ease.
All right. And then lastly, in the East, the Boston Celtics, the number 3 seed, versus the Philadelphia 76ers, who will be without Ben Simmons. Christian, who are you taking in this series? And then we'll break down the series. But who are you picking?
I am going to take the Celtics in 6.
And we, again, are in lockstep. I'm saying Celtics in 6 as well. I just think, and it could be less, honestly. I'm giving the Sixers 2 games because I think Embiid is such a mismatch for the Celtics. They don't have somebody to answer him. Even if Rob Williams is playing out of his mind, he doesn't have the strength, I think, to keep Embiid from going where he wants to go. So I think if Embiid balls out, the Sixers can take 2 games. I just don't know where they're going to get other offense from, really. So if the Celtics are playing the way they showed the last week of the bubble, and Tatum, Brown, and Kemba are all shooting well and getting to the free throw line and executing, and then you've got Gordon Hayward playing well at both ends of the floor and distributing and getting into the paint, and the Celtics are going to be a very tough out if all those guys are rolling. Not to mention that we've been seeing some contributions from some bench guys. If Romeo Langford gives you 10 to 12 good defensive minutes a night, if Brad Wanamaker is playing well, not to mention Rob Williams being healthy and contributing is a major development. That's a guy that gives you extra layers of offense with a guy that can now run at the rim, that you can lob the ball up to, who can defend the rim on the other side, at least against most guys, Embiid notwithstanding. I just think the Celtics are the better team. Because it's a bubble, I think if this were under normal circumstances, I'd be saying no Ben Simmons. The Sixers have had struggles all year long, with chemistry and competitive, wanting to compete. It could be a 4 or 5 game series, easy. It's the bubble. I'm going to give the Sixers 2 games because I think if Embiid wants to, he can be the best player on the floor. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do that for a whole series. So 2 games the Sixers might be able to get, but the Celtics should win this. If they don't, that's a huge upset.
Yeah, and supposedly Kemba is ready to go. That's my biggest key is if he's ready to go, then I think the Celtics should win this series. You can't lose this series without Simmons on the other side. Now, there are some matchup issues in this series. Obviously, Embiid is a big-time problem if he is, in the mindset that he wants to win. He can be quite the baby if he wants to be as well. So that's the key is if, does he care and does he want to win? He'll be the best player on the floor. And it's going to be tough to stop him. But like you said, if you can, defend the 3, Tobias Harris, if you can negate, some of his scoring. The Sixers have a lot of secondary scoring, but I don't mind what I've seen from the Celtics off the bench. Now you mentioned Langford; he's actually hurt, so I don't know how much he's going to play. But guys off the bench, if they can give you some solid minutes. Obviously, Wanamaker, I think he's played his best basketball here in the last 5-6 games in the bubble. So that's a positive. But there are some matchup problems with Embiid, so that's the one worry that I have, and that's why I give the Sixers obviously a chance. And also, home court thing for the Sixers, they absolutely suck on the road, and they don't have to go on the road here. So that's another key. Now, without Simmons, they obviously don't have as much firepower, which is going to hurt them. But I still think they're a pretty good team in this environment, just based on there's no crowd. So. But it goes for the Celtics, too. They don't have to go to Philly and play, so it works in their favor as well. I think the Celtics, if they're on, they should win this series in 5-6 games without Simmons. If Simmons was there, I'd say it could go 7. But with Tatum and Brown, those guys got to be the real deal. And supposedly Kemba's ready to go, so if there's no minute restriction or huge minute restriction on him, I like the Celtics' chances with the roster and how they've been playing.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. And so that series gets underway on Monday. So I think, let me check out the schedule, because I think by next weekend, the way they're just trying to rip through these games, I wonder if some of these series will even be done. Let's see if there's any.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. No, by our next show, Game 4s will be playing on Sunday and Monday. So, but. Yeah. There'll be the game 3s for every series will be completed. So we'll have a good idea. We'll have seen 3 games worth of the matchups and how things are going. So next weekend's show we'll get a much more of this picture will crystallize for us here, which is good. One last note from the comment section. Michael said, "We finally get Melo versus LeBron 15 years later," which is, we'll see how much that matchup actually comes to fruition. If I think Melo being able to give the Blazers something, you saw, like, it was the difference, the other night, last night. So he's going to be important. That's another added element for the Blazers. Like, if Melo's actually giving you something, that's just another guy that can, maybe he only averages like 8 points a game, but if he goes off one night, he's capable of giving you 20 or 30. Like, he's still got that in him to give you maybe one game like that, a series, where he could go off as well, as well as in addition to McCollum and Lillard. The other thing too, Christian, I know we kind of texted about this. Watching the Brooklyn Nets play the way they have this season, and the way they did in the bubble, and then like against the Blazers the other night in their compete level, and all these young guys that just you really like, and they play hard. it's really going to suck next year when Kyrie just completely ruins them. You know, like how that guy back in, what was it, January, was talking about how they needed more pieces. It's like, really? Like, I watched Spencer Dinwiddie drop 50 points. I watched Chris LeVert here play really, really well. Jared Allen seems like he's a beast on the post. And if Kyrie had his head on straight and, like, KD wouldn't be an issue. But Kyrie added to that team, I just feel it's just going to make them go backwards. Like, that team should just trade Kyrie in the offseason. Because they have, if KD's healthy and you just add him to what they have with the young wing players they have more than enough. Especially with how even the rest of the league is. They don't need Kyrie. Kyrie is just going to ruin that team.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet against that. I think Kyrie is just the type of guy to put into a hard-working team to make him go right back the other way. If he has his head screwed on, maybe. But during the year, this past year, people forget when he was actually playing games. He basically built the roster out from him and Kevin Durant, and he took about half the players off of it. So if you ask him, all they need is one more piece. Even though they brought those two in to be the pieces, if you give them one more guy, they're going to win the whole thing. So Kyrie took off Joe Harris and all these teammates of his, and just basically threw them into the free agent pool.
Yeah. So
exciting.
Normally, under normal circumstances, I would say, like, trade Kyrie to the Suns. Let him go somewhere where the earth is flat. But now the Suns are like a good young team. I wouldn't want him to ruin them either. Like, where can Kyrie get banished? Where's a good team for him to go where Kyrie can beat Kyrie? No one's gonna care, and he's not gonna ruin a good young team. Is there anywhere he could go? Where would be the destination?
Destination. Oh, that's a tough one. You just send him to like Orlando maybe or something. I don't know.
Orlando's a good one. They don't have a star. But here's the thing though. I want Isaiah Thomas to go to Orlando because they need a point guard. I want IT back in the league. So Orlando's off the books. Where else?
The Knicks would be a great place for him. Suckbag organization and owner, right, for Kyrie, that'd be perfect. But also then it put them on the map a little more. You don't want that. Maybe the Hawks or the Hornets.
Hornets I could see, but they also have Terry Rozier, and putting those. Oh my God,
yeah,
Scary Terry! Imagine though, like Michael Jordan would do that. They give Scary Terry money. Scary Terry thinks like, I'm the man now in Orlando, averaging like let's pull up Terry Rozier's stat line from this season before it got.
I don't think it was very good.
It can't have been very good. Played starter minutes, 34 minutes a game. Where is it? Points per game. 9 points per game. Average just under 3 assists. Let's see. Basically about a turnover a game. Didn't get to the free throw line. Was shooting 38% from the field, 35% from 3. He was just kind of like, eh. He wasn't doing what he was doing 2 years ago in the playoffs when he was getting starters minutes. Definitely not worth the money they gave him. But imagine he just thinks, like, doesn't matter, like, I'm the starter. And then Michael Jordan goes out and gets Kyrie Irving. And now Scary Terry has to back up Kyrie again.
Perfect. Yeah, it'd be perfect. Just the guy you wanted to get away from, and now he's coming right back.
Let's see. There's anybody else? Yeah. I mean, the Hawks, no way. Even though their record was abysmal. I mean, they have Trae Young. They don't need a point guard. Send them back to the Cavs. But they have Sexton. I don't know. Out west, the Timberwolves, maybe. You could go in complete isolation up there. But actually, do they have D'Angelo Russell now? I think, right? That feels like forever ago. I think D. Russell got traded to them back, right before the shutdown. All that stuff happened. Yeah.
Traded to Minnesota for Wiggins.
Yeah. Oh God, that's right. Man, the Warriors are just sitting here like licking their chops. They're like, we're just having more time to get healthy. The league's gonna start in December. We're gonna have like the number 1 overall pick. We're gonna have Wiggins. We're gonna have Steph and Clay and Dre and the Warriors are just sitting here. They're they're taking it's a gap year for them, and then they're going to come back with a vengeance. They have the worst record in the league, and they're going to be the best team in the NBA next year. It's so ridiculous.
Disgusting.
So ridiculous. Anyway, so those are our NBA thoughts. If you'd like to give your thoughts to the show, if you're watching with us live, the email and our social media handles are right there up on the screen. You can always email the show throughout the week as well, and we'll get to our mailbag at the end of the show, or wherever those emails are relevant to the topics we're speaking about. And then if you can't catch us live and you're listening to this as a podcast, again, the show comes out live on Sundays at 11 a.m. And then throughout, we put the podcast up later in the afternoon, and you can listen all week long. Make sure you like and subscribe, whether it be through SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify. You can find us pretty much everywhere. And you can send us questions and comments throughout the week to the show that way, and we'll get to them. So that's our NBA stuff. Let's move on to the NHL, the Stanley Cup playoffs, which have been happening. All of this has been the playoffs, but the round robins are done. The seeding series are done. The matchups, as we're used to them, have been set. Let's maybe quickly, Christian, we'll just kind of give an update here, and we can chime in here if we think there's anything worth noting with the other series. Vegas leads the Blackhawks 3-0. I think they're going to sweep that series because the Blackhawks, they were one of the 12 seeds. They found a way to get in. Kind of seems like they kind of spent all their emotional energy on that play-in series, and the Knights are just going to quickly dispatch them.
Yeah, the hockey gods are saying they shouldn't really be in. So Vegas is also a really good team. So no shame to them, but Chicago was way out of it. They played well here in the round robin, but ultimately Vegas is the better team. So I think it'll be either the clean sweep or maybe one more, but Vegas comes through that series easily.
Yep. Colorado is leading the Coyotes. That series is 2-1. I think this could be a long series. With the same thing, kind of like the NBA, without fans. We'll talk about the lack of fans at NHL games later. I think this series has proven to be kind of an even match series. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes a little longer. The Coyotes, they took Game 3, and so now I feel like that that series is a little different. I think it goes 6, maybe 7. I still like the Avalanche to win that series, but I think that series is definitely going to get extended now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think probably I would think Arizona maybe gets one more, but I ultimately I think Colorado comes through that series. Colorado is they are a speed demon on rushes, and they that's a dangerous team if they can come through and just keep that momentum. But ultimately Arizona is just not on that level yet.
The next series, Calgary is leading the Stars 2-1. So the 6 seed leading the 3 seed 2-1. We know the seeding doesn't matter as much for home court, home ice, all that sort of stuff. But Calgary, who had been really hot early in the season, then kind of came down to earth. They're kind of a wild card team, and they're up 2-1 on the Stars.
Yeah, the Stars. The Stars are always this team, I feel like, but ultimately, I don't want to take anything away from Calgary. And good friend, old friend Milan Lucic, in that room, but also obviously Johnny Gaudreau is a good player. They have a pretty good team. They're relatively young. I think ultimately they're going to win that series. But at what point do you say Dallas has got to come through here? They have Sagan, they have Jamie Benn, all these guys, and they can't seem to just cross that line to get anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're what's a good cross sport comparison? Well, I'll have to think on that. But you're right. They're that team that every year you think this is the year. They're the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're in that 3 to 5 slot every year. It feels like, and they can't come through. Now, obviously, that speaks to hockey and how great it is because any team can beat anybody once the playoffs start. Even if you put the crowd element in there, a lot of times the road team wins those games. So it doesn't matter as much in hockey, but I just feel like they have a good roster over there, but they just can never break through.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned it. I love still seeing Milan Lucic putting people like basically through the glass. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, yeah. He gave a nice right hand to someone earlier in the year with his glove still on. It was great.
um, the next series out in the West, Vancouver, the Canucks up 2-0 on the Blues. Now, the Blues, much like the Bruins, they were the best team in the West all year long before the shutdown. Had the restart, and they kind of seemed like they were playing just as lackadaisical. This is kind of an exhibition. We don't really, doesn't seem like we're, when the playoffs start, we'll be ready. They're down 2-0. Like, is it panic time in St. Louis? I mean, they seem like undecided now. They don't know whether to try Binnington in Game 3 or go with Allen. Are you worried for the Blues? Can they? I mean, you're down. It's one thing to drop one game. They lost both games to start. Are you worried for them, and are they just cooked? Are they just not able to like flip the switch here?
I still think they have a chance, but once you get into this next game here, you get that one goal against you, you kind of go down the chute. So I'm a little bit worried for St. Louis. I think maybe you make a goalie change for Game 3, see what happens. But Vancouver is flying all over the ice. That's a pretty good team, another young team with a lot of speed. And St. Louis is just they really haven't ramped it up. The Bruins, at least, we'll get to them in a minute, but they've at least kind of picked their level up here in the playoffs once it started. St. Louis has not really done that. I haven't really seen anything that makes me think, oh, they can come back easily from 2-0, 3-0 down and still take the series because it's so close. I think they're not looking great, and maybe a goalie swap will change something.
Yeah, I agree. You got to shake something up. You got to try and wake your team up. They rode Binnington last year to the Cup final and to a championship, but you can't be sentimental at this point now. Season's on the line. You can't go down 3-0. It does not, bubble or not, you can't go down 3-0. That's just too much of a hole.
Okay.
And if you got to wake up your team, the goalie change is a good way to do it because it just will hopefully get the guys in front of them to wake up. So if either way, though, Blues definitely in trouble. Haven't liked what I've seen. Over in the East, the Flyers, who wind up with the number one seed through the round robins and in the seeding series and games, they're tied 1-1 with the Canadiens. The Flyers took game 1. The Canadiens come back. They win 5-0. Very emotional game. Claude Julien had to have heart surgery. He left the bubble. Price makes 30 saves in that game. I don't know. We've been saying for a while, like the Canadiens, you watch, they're going to get in and they're going to get hot. They end up beating the Penguins, and here they're tied up with the Flyers. But is there going to be like they've spent so much emotional energy to get here? It's kind of the same thing with the Blackhawks. They spent so much emotional energy to get here. They lose game 1. They win game 2, maybe just because it's one of those situations where like they had so much on their hearts and minds, and they just played so inspired that now you're kind of spent. Or is this series actually going to go the distance?
God, I fear for my life on this one. It could possibly go. It could go the distance, in my opinion. I thought the Flyers would probably take this in 5-6 games, just because they seem like, at least before the restart and then the restart, they're one of the hottest teams in the league. But Montreal, I just can't do it. I think they could easily win the series. I don't know what it is, but I think the nightmare is coming true. They're going to come through the series and then beat the Bruins. So I'm not going to I'm not going to say they're going to lose the series for sure, because I don't want to throw the mojo off.
Yeah.
I would say Philly should win, but who the hell knows?
Yeah. The next series, Tampa Bay Lightning are leading 2-1 in the series. This series, oh my gosh. We can kind of touch on this now. Start game 1, 5 overtimes. Totally exposed that the NHL was not ready for a scenario, because the bubble, the host sites, they only have one sheet. It's not like basketball where they've got 3 courts. they only have one sheet of ice that the teams are playing on. Now, they stagger the start time so much, you figure it wouldn't be an issue, except if you go to quintuple overtime, and they got halfway through that period. They almost could have gotten to a sixth overtime, which would have been insane. So the Lightning are up 2-1. They lose. They win game 1, lose game 2. Probably, understandably so after the way that went. You figured that was going to be a split because one team's just going to have been so gassed. But now the Lightning up 2-1. Let's talk about the 5 overtimes, Christian. Is it good or is it bad? Do we hear a lot of debate, this week over this, like, should the NHL, like, cap the number of overtimes and then, like, you go to a shootout? Do you start taking players off the ice, or do you like, it does not matter. You play 5-on-5 until somebody scores. Where do you fall here with this on the 5 overtime thing?
So regular season, do whatever the hell you want. When it comes to the playoffs, you play until somebody wins. The shootout idea, I do not like. I think it just kind of, like, you want someone winning the Stanley Cup Game 7 on a shootout. I think that just ruins the integrity of how great playoff hockey can be. Now, I will say, obviously, the other night, that game went on far too long for my liking because it was kind of boring in, like, 2 of those overtimes at least. Maybe even 3. It was just kind of like, there wasn't much going on. So the only way you remedy that is, like, maybe a 4-on-4 after, like, the first or second overtime. But there's no way in hell I'm going shootout. I don't think that would kind of ruin it for me at the end there. I think there's ways to get around it, but how often does this happen? Obviously, the only reason it happened in this case is because the only reason it matters really is because you have the one sheet of ice. Normal circumstances, that hurts those teams because they have to come through now, 14, 21 games still left, whatever it takes. But ultimately, I'm not really changing much on it. Regular season, go nuts. Do one-on-one for all I care. But playoffs, I think you got to keep the OTs going until somebody wins. If you want to take a player off the ice for each side, great. Maybe go 4-on-4. But no shootout in the playoffs for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's no reason. And, just let them play. Somebody will win. It'll happen. I don't want to have, I know, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and they decide champions with, penalty kicks, and the world is used to it. But, over here, in the Western Hemisphere, we like to do things a little different, and I prefer to just have somebody be decided the winner. And
yep.
The flip side, though, is usually same way that game ended. It's off triple deflected puck. You get that deep in overtime, guys just can't skate anymore, so it's just shots are flying everywhere. It's like in baseball too. 2 years ago in the World Series, that like 19-inning game for the Red Sox, guys are just swinging for the fences. So they're either going to strike out or they're going to hit a home run. And that's usually how those games end. You're just ripping away. Like, let somebody just end it. And it's off a triple deflect. This time for the Lightning, it was, like 3 shots get blocked and the puck ping-pongs around the offensive zone, and it comes to a guy in the slot to just, rip it on the net. That's how those games usually end. What I think the NHL might run into here, if, more and more games go to overtime, you're seeing it. Like you said, Christian, there was periods where, like, it was boring. Well, that's because with no home crowd, that, like, one that would normally be that home team is going to come out jacked up to start that next overtime period. And you go, you get your rest, you come out, and the crowd's going nuts again, and it's like, okay, let's get ready to go, and you get that little extra energy boost to start a period. And then if you don't score in the first, like, 2-3 minutes of that, first couple of shifts, you kind of just, like, fall back. That buzz wears off, and now you're back into the slog. And it's like one team might be able to get a little bit of a run of energy again, maybe towards the end of the period, but it's just a lot of just back and forth with nothing happening because you guys are just so spent. You basically played almost 3 games, like in that game. And it was the same in the Bruins game. Their first game went to double overtime because you could just see it was just not a lot of scoring chances because guys are just gassed. And, you don't get the little extra boost as the home team from a crowd to, like, get energized and get up and let's find some energy here, boys. It's not there. So I do think without the crowds, that's where you could see some of these overtime games getting extended because that little home ice boost isn't there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you kind of tack on maybe an extra. We've seen games go 2, 3 overtimes before, but 5 in the last couple of years, it's not super like it doesn't happen very often. So I would say, I kind of agree with that in terms of you're either on one side you want to shut the crowd up, or you get that home crowd boost and off you go in that second overtime or third overtime, but never really 5. It's very rare that you see what we saw the other night, and even some of the other games they've gone 2 OTs, 1 OT. So games are going to go into overtime. Um, but hopefully, I mean, Seth Jones the other night played 62 minutes in one game, which is 3 periods of hockey in a single game, which is insane.
Yeah.
He averages probably like half of that in a regular game, but it's just insane the amount they played the other night. But hey, I still like the overtime. It did get kind of dry at some point, but also once you find that winner, it just kind of it ramps it back up to wow that was awesome. But the 5 overtime I think will be fixed with crowds in the building. It's just a matter of how long is it going to be till we have crowds in the building, I guess. But ultimately this is the hand that they're dealt this year, and the one sheet of ice won't matter much as you move on because more teams are going to get knocked out here.
Yeah. So that game was the 4th longest game in NHL postseason history. I think it's in playoff history. The game was 140 minutes and 48 seconds. That's on ice time. 150 minutes and 27 seconds. That's on ice time. The next longest game, you have to go back to 2000. Flyers, Penguins. That was 5 overtimes, 152 minutes and 1 second. Keith Primeau with the game winner in that one. The second longest game all time in the playoffs. The Bruins and the Maple Leafs in 1933. 6 overtimes, 164 minutes and 46 seconds. A 1-0 game. That was in a semifinal. 1-0. God. 164 minutes and 45 seconds of scoreless action before you got a goal. Ken Doherty with the game winner in that one, in case you were wondering. Longest game in NHL postseason history. March 24th, 1936. 176 minutes and 3 seconds. 6 overtimes. Christian, do you know who the participants were in that game? 1-0 game, Stanley Cup semifinal in 1936. Do you know who it was?
I do not.
The Detroit Red Wings, we know them, and the Montreal Maroons.
Okay. Of course it was Montreal, of course.
Detroit won 1-0. Again, people sat in the stands probably and watched 176 minutes of scoreless action before somebody scored. Winner in that one, in case you're wondering, was Mud Brenneto. Was Brenneto with the game winner. Mud scored in the 6th overtime. So yeah, games like that are freak occurrences. They don't happen all that often. It will be interesting to see if it happens more here in the bubble because, all bets are off. You don't know, what these games are going to be like, but we'll see going forward. Last 2 playoff series in the East. The Islanders are on top of the Capitals 2-0. The champs down, the penultimate champs 2 years ago. Down 2-0. It feels like a million years ago. In my mind I blacked out that the Blues won last year. There was nobody who won the Stanley Cup last year. Islanders up 2-0. Are you concerned for the Capitals, Christian?
Yeah, Capitals they are not looking good. I think the Islanders are kind of kicking the crap out of them. Obviously, Backstrom is not in for Washington, so that kind of hurts them. But Ovechkin tried the other day, had a couple of goals. but the Islanders, they're taking it to them pretty good. So I think Game 3 is today, maybe right now even. I think it just started, but they got to win today. Otherwise, I think the Islanders come through that series. I don't know. I think um, without Backstrom, they're just missing that other piece for Washington. He's another guy that really helps them, and he might be playing today. I'm not exactly sure, but the Islanders have they've come through that series pretty good so far. So I would expect them to win that series at this point, but you know anything can happen if the Caps win today.
Who was it? So that game is underway. It literally just started. Who was it that you wanted to know if they were active or not?
Nick Backstrom.
Nick Backstrom. I don't believe he is in the lineup. So no, no Nick Backstrom for the Caps.
Yeah, I think he's out with a head injury. I want to say game 1 it happened. He got kind of a nasty hit, late hit on him. So if he's not playing today, he was out game 2 as well. So that's a big piece missing for Washington.
And then lastly, the 4-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Bruins lead the Hurricanes 2-1. I've been taking notes on this series, and obviously, we've got 3 games under our belt, and they were all kind of different games. Game 1, I honestly wanted the Bruins to lose game 1, Christian, because I was like, they need to wake up. So maybe not finding a way to just play terribly and then win might not be the best thing for them. But they win game 1 in double overtime. Patrice Bergeron, the legend, continues to grow. Game winner in that one. Then they follow up game 2, kind of a stinker. No David Pastrnak. We'll talk about him. They looked tired. I think a big part of that was because that game they had to play back to back because of the 5 overtime game. Their game got pushed to the next morning. Having played game 1, on the morning, game 2 was the next day. They just looked tired. The third period, they looked listless. They made a good push at the end, but just kind of all over the place. And then game 3 happens yesterday. They get the news that there's no Tuukka Rask, which we'll get into in depth. No Pastrnak, and I think they played their best game since the return yesterday. They're up 2-1, and them and the Blues we're looking at as how were one of the best teams all year. They kind of looked like they didn't care about they called it preseason, the return to play. Now it's the playoffs. The Blues look like they're going one way. The Bruins, I think, have found themselves again here in this series, and they lead 2-1, rightfully so.
Yeah, I would like to see it continue. Hopefully, game 4 they can come out with an extra day of rest as opposed to game 1 and 2. But yeah, game 1 was not a bad effort. I think they dominated the second period in that game. Came out in the third and played pretty well, but not their best overall. Obviously, Pastrnak goes down in game 2, and they give a turnover to Dougie Hamilton, who smokes a slap shot over the glove of your goaltender, who didn't really care about the results. And then game 3 yesterday, agreed 100%, by far their best game since the return to play. I thought they dominated most of the play, maybe 5 minutes to go in the first, and then the second period was absolutely all Bruins. And the third period was pretty similar, just the one miss error by Halak, which was not a good one.
Oh, yeah, that was not good.
Didn't see the guy. He had McAvoy maybe 5 feet away from him, and he hucked it right in front of his empty net. That can't happen, but overall, I thought Halak was really good, and even after that, the Canes kind of pushed after that. They came right back down after that mishap, and he was right back at it. So that's a good sign. And obviously, game 4 tomorrow, you'd like to kind of just put them away here in the next, couple games. But Carolina's not going away, I don't think. We'll see what happens with Pastrnak. But the Bruins, based on yesterday, you see how much, if they play their game, how much better they are than Carolina. It's just a matter of, do they have the gas on the engine to go 7 games, in this series, whatever it takes, 5, 6, 7. do they have the gas to do it game after game after game? So that'll be the key tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree. And before we get into the Tuca and Pasternak things, I thought Halak looked great. That one that one mishap, he went behind the boards to play the puck and wanted to fire up the ice. It's kind of freakish too. I mean, it goes off a cane and then it's right there and the net's empty. The power play looks so much better. David Krejci's been the best Bruin so far.
Yes. Yep.
He's been lights out.
Excellent.
Another guy I wrote down, Sean Corrali. I just love him. That dude, that line, whatever line he's on, and that dude specifically, every night brings it. Like it brings physicality. He also makes plays. Anytime that line is out on the ice, I'm like confident that like good things are going to happen. I'm not worried like, oh God, this line's out. Like, I'm worried about them defensively. Something that line is fantastic. I love Sean. I love his story. How he got to the big team a couple of years ago. The guy was basically like eating a cannoli up on Federal Hill, and he gets a call like, "Hey, can you fly up to Ottawa tonight for a game? We need you."
Yeah.
Ends up scoring 2 goals and winning the game in overtime for them. Much better start to the third period. Obviously, the turnover by Halak was really bad and unfortunate, but by and large, the Bruins put the clamps down on that Canes team. And, like, knew, it was as long as, like, after giving up that goal to make it 2-1, like, hopefully the Canes didn't, like, get this big boost of energy. The Bruins weathered that storm that 5 minutes after that. And then it was, like, 9 minutes to go, and you're like, these guys aren't going to get a shot on goal. Like, the Bruins are so locked in right now defensively and in the neutral zone and with their pressure and then with the puck movement offensively. They at least in that game, they reached another level, and you just knew, like, we just got to work the time off the clock here because they got this. And that was good to see. Also, got to talk about, too, man, like, Svechnikov going down for them, that's a huge blow, and that injury was scary. And people are getting all over Chara. Chara didn't do anything there. That doesn't happen routinely almost every possession of every hockey game ever played. You're going to try and go post up in front of the goalie. It's going to be a battle. And there was, Aho was like punching Chara in the back of the head like earlier in that possession too, and they didn't call that. So guys are just battling. Yeah. It's unfortunate. The guys, he didn't get slew-footed. The guys, he got turned around and his skate was stuck in the ice. Like, it's like freakish and unfortunate and scary. Like, oh, I couldn't like watch that more than twice. I was like, oh, okay, yep, a knee is not supposed to bend that way. I don't even think they've still not come out with an official injury on him. I imagine that's an ACL or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be unfit to participate because that's what the NHL is going to do. But it was a scary injury. Anybody that's getting after Chara, like, come on, like he's battling with a 6'9" guy. Like, what do you want Chara to do there? Just let him push him over? No. And that injury that happened, typically you wouldn't see. He just fell awkwardly, and it's an unfortunate injury because it looked pretty nasty. Hopefully we'll see if he's back in this series at all. I would doubt it just based on how it looked, but then again, he plays hockey, so you never know. But I just think, like, anybody that's getting on Chara or anything like that, that's just two guys battling in front of the net. One guy goes down awkwardly and unfortunately gets the bad side of it where he landed awkwardly on his ankle. It's just, you're not supposed to, obviously the body is not supposed to move that way, but it's not Chara's fault. It's not Svechnikov's fault. It's literally a fluke kind of injury that he fell awkwardly.
Yeah. So Bruins up 2-1. They're looking good. Let's deal with David Pastrnak first. Me and you, Christian, we debated about is he the best Bruins player, him or Marchand, and we had this whole long Pastrnak thing, and I said, but he needs to show up in the play. It doesn't matter about him being quarantined and not being there at the beginning of camp and the restart of camp and blah 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 blah. No matter what, if he shows up and plays well in the postseason, that's what's going to matter. Now he plays game 1, he has an assist on the game winner, and now he's out the last 2 games. He did. And I remember I texted you, it was all Brad Marchand. Marchand gave him a layup. He's out no indication that he's going to play Game 4. And people not really sure. Again, they all say unfit to participate. I don't think there's still no insider has gotten an official word on an injury.
Lower body. Yeah.
Lower body. Speaking with our medical expert, sports medicine expert, Dr. Mark Murphy, he watched the footage where people think he got hurt, which was on the goal celebrating. He like jumps up and then kind of is bent over, kind of grabbing his midsection. Just watching that video and making obviously a diagnosis from afar, he thinks it's a groin injury, and if that's so, that's not good. Those don't go away. Those don't go away in a week. Because
you saw how much it hampered Bergeron last year in the playoffs. He had a groin throughout the whole thing, and he wasn't the same player for 2 series. So those things linger badly.
Yeah, so that's concerning for Pasta because I think they'll be able to get by the Canes without him. I wouldn't try to bring him back. Honestly, I would just shut him down and rest up and get treatment because they should be able to win this series without him. They need him, though, going forward. Let's talk about Tuukka Rask. I think we both came on, we're ready to come on the show this morning to rip him about his comments about saying, after Game 2, which – it's one thing, like, dude, you can feel this way, but keep it to yourself, that it doesn't feel real. There's no fans. It's not right. It's hard to have fun. Normally, I'd be golfing this time of year. It doesn't feel normal, blah, blah, blah. And everybody was going to want to tear into him over those comments. Then, stunningly, yesterday morning, basically an hour before the game, the news drops, Tuukka Rask has left the bubble, and he's going home to be with his family. And the official statement from the Bruins, they're all behind him. But this is from Don Sweeney. And we said, they're behind him. They understand it's a difficult decision. And we're not going to rip guys for being afraid of of wanting to opt out. And guys opted out before the bubble. He's the first to opt out from already being in the bubble. And we said if it's for personal reasons, like somebody's sick or something like that, it's easy, 100%, full pass. We understand. But Sweeney says his family is safe and healthy. But with a newborn and 2 young girls, it's been challenging. It's nothing specific. Fortunately, his family is healthy. To have their dad back, to be around on a regular basis is exactly what Tuukka needs to do at this point in time. The guy can do that. I'm sure, it's difficult. But you know what? It's difficult for all these guys. I'm sure all of them want to be with their families. Your teammates want to be with their families. And you're the one guy who's showing up saying, I can't really get up for it. There's no fans. Now, I give him credit as a Bruins fan, and I'm sure the Bruins maybe feel like, you know what? If your head's not in it, go home. We'll ride Halak. Your goaltender needs to be engaged.
Yeah.
But as far as just Rask for himself, it's just another kind of like instances of this pattern of behavior of his, which is to kind of turtle in certain scenarios. It's not normal and it's weird and it's awkward to not have fans and it doesn't feel like it should. But everybody else is battling through it. The guy's going to do what's best for him. If his head's not right, he's going to go. That doesn't mean I can still not judge the guy for feeling like, rightfully or not, his team's going to feel like they quit on him. Like, the team themselves is going to say, hey, we fully support his decision, blah, blah, blah. You tell me the guys in that locker room are all being like, oh, good for you, Tuukka. Yeah. You're a Vezina Trophy winner. You're our guy. We need you, but it's fine. Do what you want to do. We're behind you. There's going to be guys who are going to take this personally. Like, dude, I'm going to play through like a punctured lung for you. You're ready to just, why did you come in the first place?
Yeah.
I'm sure you felt this way after the round robin games. Opt out then, And I think
part of it. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm ranting. You now rant. Your turn to rant.
Here's my issue with the way he went about it is, like, obviously, if you're worried about your safety or you just want to be with your family, it's a tough environment. look, everybody doesn't like going to work right now. It's kind of a weird time. Uh, but at the end of the day, like, dude, you went up there for 2 games and then all of a sudden you just bow out. It just 2 games in the playoffs. Obviously, he was there for more, but like you agreed to go up there. Like my problem is that it's not that he's he wants to go back with his family for his own safety, his family's safety, whatever he is. Small children, I get it, but it's like, oh man, you agreed to go up there, and then when you get up there, you play 2 games and say you don't really care about results, and you don't, you look like from the start you don't want to be there. You said I don't know if he just wants to go golfing or what, but it's just another one of those things where it's just like a little bit comes your way and you just kind of bow out. I said from the start I'm not going to knock guys for not wanting to participate in times like this. It's a weird time. Uh, you got to take care of yourself, your family. That's first and foremost. And I think, honestly, I think the guys in the room like Rask overall. And I think, he's a well liked guy. And he has been for a while. And I don't think this is going to do anything to, like, put that on the back burner that, everybody's going to hate him or anything. But he went up there, and an hour before game 3, he's like, yeah, I'm going home. I just don't, it's just the way it happened as opposed to, and also it's just like, it sucks that he feels like, it's not that important, like, does he want that notch on his belt that he can say, I won a championship, not, I have my name on it from Tim Thomas winning it. Like, does he want that? It doesn't seem like he does. The rest of the guys are sacrificing as well. There's no other player in the NHL, as far as I know, that is backed out. And typically these guys, hockey for it's not the most well liked out of the major sports. For me, it is, but it's like these guys want to play hockey. They want to win. A lot of guys are sacrificing a lot to be in the bubble away from family and kids, and it's a few months. And you think Chara, Bergeron, these guys are saying, well, I don't really care about the cup. Oh, these guys want to win. And it really sucks that Rask doesn't feel like he wants it enough, and he wants to, take a little bit of sacrifice from his family and everything. Obviously, if it's an emergency, that's way different. You go home right away, but it just doesn't feel like he has that drive to be like, you know what, I could be in contention for the best Bruins goalie ever if I get a notch on my belt that says I won a Stanley Cup and I kind of carried the load. And it just doesn't feel like he cares as much as a lot of the guys, which, I mean, it's fine. It just sucks that that's the way it is.
Yeah, because obviously he's better than Halak. Him at his best is one of the best goaltenders in the league. And he's a terrific talent. He kind of has hinted, like, there was some rumors, like, he took time off back earlier in the season for personal reasons. And there was some hints with the shutdown, like, he was a guy that, like, maybe was contemplating retirement if they didn't restart. Yeah. And now he said, he's talking about maybe this time you got to be golfing, the games feel dull. Maybe it's what happens. Sometimes, like, you see it in the NFL, like veteran guys show up to training camp. They get 2 weeks in, and it's like they announce they're retiring. Because it's like, you know what, I just realized the passion's not there anymore. It's just gone.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. He said these games feel dull, and he hadn't until Tuesday. What day? Thursday, I think. He hadn't cost them a playoff game yet. But then they lose game 2, and his 88 save percentage is not perfect either. It's not like he was playing lights out. And so if his head's not on right and he's feeling he's not doing it, I'll give him credit for it. It puts the team in the best position to win if he's saying, I can't. I don't think I can do it, and and if you're the team, you'd rather have him not there and roll with guys who are going to have their heads screwed on straight, and let him go do what he needs to do for himself. Going forward, though, I can't see how you stick with Tuukka. Like, if he doesn't retire, he's got one more year left on that contract. If he doesn't retire, don't you have to trade him? Like, doesn't don't you have to like, you be concerned about like him pulling something like, because COVID's not going to go away.
Right.
We're gonna, if the season starts again in December, they might have to do a bubble or figure out some sort of hybrid model again as well, and nothing's going to change for him with this. So, do you have to explore trading Tuukka almost immediately in the offseason?
I would definitely think about it, especially maybe Yarrow wants to stick around for one more year. I think he's good. Unfortunately, for the Bruins, this is kind of it for these guys. Like you see how Chara is so slow and he's sluggish and he looks his age at this point. He's still serviceable NHL player, don't get me wrong, but like this is kind of it for these guys. It's good to see Krejci have a little jump in his step, but Bergeron, Krejci, Chara, like these guys are coming down to the tail end in terms of runs with this team, and for all his gripes, Tuukka is one of the best goalies in the league, and I just don't think he wants that thing that guys have, the Jordans of the world, the Bradys of the world. He just doesn't have that thing where he wants to get that his name on that cup for him and his teammates. I just don't think he doesn't have the drive as like the same mindset as these guys that just want to go out there and win.
Yeah. His cap hit is $7 million next year. I want to look up really quickly because a big thing about the offseason, and you talked about it, some of these guys on the back nine. Chara's already said he's coming back. He's like, I want to play another year. that dude wants to play for forever, which is insane. I want to try and find if I can if this website will work. I wanted to find what Torrey Krug is making this year and kind of like what he's expecting, because he's a guy that's a free agent that people are expecting would probably be gone. So his cap hit this year is around $5.5 million.
Yeah.
And he's going to want to get paid. He's probably going to want a little boost.
Yeah, he's projected like 7.5 probably.
If you don't have Tuukka, you keep Torrey Krug. And that's a younger guy that can that you're able to retain. That's part of your core, so to speak. Does that factor into that decision? If you're already kind of like Tuukka's kind of at the end here, he also might not be fully invested. Trading him no matter what gives you cap flexibility. So is it even more likely, because they're up against it money wise, that move would happen?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Bruins are obviously probably going to explore the option. At the same time, if I just don't know, I don't know how you move forward with Tuukka on the team. Obviously, the guys in the room like him, like I said, like that is a known thing. But at the same time, it's like, at what point do you say, like, if he's not going to give us the best opportunity to win because he doesn't want it as much, then I think it's time to at least explore the option of moving on and, maybe getting one of these young guys, Vladar, or, keep Halak, whatever the option is. You got to kind of find the next guy here, because I think, I don't know if Tuukka's if he's done, if he just doesn't want to play anymore, which is fine either way. That's up to him. But the Bruins got to move on at some point. And Krug is a guy that I especially he's good in the room. He's a leader on that team, and I don't want to see him go if they can avoid it. So if you have to get rid of Rask and clear some money to keep a guy like that, it might be worth it at this point.
Yeah. They'll even get more money too, because they'll have a smaller percentage of the David Backes contract on their books. Kevin Miller, who's part of their like long-term injury designation, will be off their books as well. So like right now, with everybody expected, their salary cap space next year is around $16 million before trying to get free agents and stuff like that. Taking $7 million out of that equation will be the difference between them being an old team that is getting diminishing returns and being a retooling team that can keep their veteran core and add young talent and prolong a run. So we'll keep an eye on that. We don't know for a while. But especially if the Bruins go on a run without him, you got to think, that's going to be a possibility. So, yeah, not the best of looks for Tuca. But hey, guys are going to do what they have to do. I think it does say a lot that he's the only guy in the NHL that came to the bubble, has been in the bubble, and now is saying, "Nah, I'm going to go home." We'll see if more of those happen. Obviously, teams are going to get eliminated, so guys are on the doorstep of going home anyways. But surprising, to say the least. Lastly, we're going to get to the NFL. And I really want to say, we've been talking a lot, can they pull off a season? There has been a major development for the NFL and for sports in general about playing, about maybe having fans in the stands, and this development, which will help the NFL and will help Major League Baseball and will help athletics in general, comes to you courtesy of the NBA, which is absolutely insane. And here's what the news is. The NBA, in conjunction with Yale, have just had an FDA approval authorization for the public to use a saliva-based coronavirus test that they expect to be able to have turnaround. It increases the availability, turnaround time, and affordability to test in the United States. This is like that minor miracle that like football has been hoping for. I think it's kind of scary. We don't want to get too much into politics. I think it's a little bit of a sad commentary that the NBA and their players are the ones that basically were like the guinea pigs for this test through in their bubble, and they're the ones creating the innovations that are instead of our government to help fight this thing. Test was developed in conjunction with Yale. It's coined Saliva Direct. They think that the test can be done for as little as $4 a test. Now, obviously, once that gets out into the public, it's going to be increased a little bit because you have production, marketing, supply lines, outlet markups, yada yada yada. But even still, even if it's like $35, imagine that some of these tests cost hundreds of dollars, and they say it's a quick turnaround, and you wait like 4 days, a week to find out. This is basically, they've said this has got the same accuracy as the deep nose swab, so we don't have to poke your brainstem, and we're still getting the same accuracy, and it results in a half hour. That is going to go a long way towards being able to test players, during a week, on upon departure and arrival at facilities, game day morning. Hey, all these guys just tested positive. They can't play. These guys are all negative, and away we go. This is a huge breakthrough for sports, for everybody, but specifically for sports and the teams that want to be in closer contact without a bubble scenario. And it comes from the NBA, which I think it's great, but I think it should be a little alarming that it's the NBA that's making these breakthroughs for the U.S. public and not, say, other sectors.
Yeah, very much so. This is huge news, though, for hopefully the world. But the FDA had, I believe, they got they gave an emergency authorization on this, so that's a good sign. And it's not surprising to me that the NBA is involved with this because of how I feel like they've just dealt with it in the smartest way possible from the get-go. But the way they shut down, they reopen, they had it laid out, which is none too surprising. And I think it's good that they're kind of in talks because I believe they've been using this in the bubble, as far as I understand. But
yes,
either way, this is great news for sports in general, and especially for the sports that have to travel, like the MLB and NFL. So that is a huge development for both of those leagues because that would help immensely. And if the accuracy and results can get back to you quicker, that's even better.
Yeah. Now, the thing is this going to now, because we've seen. We talked last week about the Division II and Division III athletics canceled fall championships. So there's no national champion that would ever be crowned for those divisions. Almost everybody universally has canceled fall athletics. There is still the door open for spring if teams want to have, if conferences want to have conference play, and if individual institutions want to play games. Obviously, we're a long way away from that happening, but it's being discussed. Even though I think we've talked about how that's going to be a logistical nightmare. Some D1 football schools have already canceled their fall seasons. The FBS is supposed to make a decision tomorrow. Tomorrow, Monday the 17th, is the big day. I think this news coming out about this test, while it's going to be good for the NFL, and I think colleges, though, are going to think that this is like the grail they've been waiting for. And I still think, though, that in a college setting, professional athletes, one thing. These guys are getting paid. It's their job. And now we have a way to make sure that they can ensure that they can do their job. Ensuring that it does no insurance either. This is going to embolden the FBS to think, hey, look, we can play football now and, make these amateur athletes incur a tremendous health risk, and as well as exposing those campuses further, which is the whole reason to not have athletics anyway. Competition is a luxury, especially amateur competition that maybe we've not earned yet. And I worry that this is going to, FBS probably would have been ready to come to the table tomorrow and say, yep, we're scrapping all of it like everybody else is. Now I don't think so. I think they're going to say full ahead tomorrow, and because of this. And I don't know if that's going to be a good thing yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, from the beginning of this, I've said to myself and to other people, the most important thing that we can provide at this point is just time for everything to kind of develop, whether that's therapy, tests, anything like that. It just takes more time. And unfortunately, that is going to hurt some places and be fine for others. Like college athletics is going to hurt from it for a bit, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. So I just think, I think everything needs more time, as much as people don't want to be patient for that time. But it's just, you just got to wait at this point. That's the only way to deal with it, and hope within the next 6 months everything is up and back to somewhat normal.
Yeah. So we'll see. Big development. I think it's good to see. It's good to see that the research is being done and there's innovations being made. With everything, it doesn't mean we all just rush back out into the pool and play.
Right.
There's a lot left to handle, and we can't just. It's something that everything here has to be gradual, or else you risk undoing all the hard work you did in the first place. Quick update for you, Christian. The Islanders are already up 1-0 on the Capitals. Anders Lee with the goal. So
just saw that. Yeah.
Not good for the Capitals. They're in jeopardy now of going down 3-0 in that game. But this is a great show, and I think next week we're going to have even more because some of these teams will be out. The NBA playoffs will be in the thick of it. Sports are back, and I think that's good. A lot of conversations we've been having with people is it's good to have actual games to talk about now.
God.
And the products have been compelling, except for baseball.
Yeah, but does baseball really count?
No, I don't think it counts. And we'll see if they even get through their whole season. But anyways, that'll do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook Live. We're every Sunday at 11 a.m. we do the show live. If you can't catch us live, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Just search for the 360 Sports Show on every possible podcasting platform, and we're there. And you can always send us thoughts and questions to the show, and we'll get to them live. If not, we'll check our mailbox, and we'll get to your emails. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in live. If you're listening to a podcast, make sure you subscribe. Never miss a show. And we'll catch you all next weekend.